All righty then. Boy, we're a little late with this episode. This
Coronavirus!
April Fools.
yeah, April Fool's hot. You thought you were going to get this on the 1st of April. Instead, we're recording on Earth Day. So we're at least still sticking to some kind of holiday theme here.
Yeah, there you go.
This is actually kind of fitting in with the issue too. Like,
if the issue is widespread mass panic, death, and misinformation, you are correct, sir.
There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of misinformation in the April Fool's Day issue of Long Halloween. So
you're not wrong. You are not wrong indeed. And this is the Batman Long Halloween podcast that we do here in the Podbringer Network. You've heard all of the voices of the usual repertory players for this podcast. Man, we have Mr. Jermon Jackson in the house as always. How are you doing today, sir?
Not bad. I think there's still daylight out, right? I've been shut in for quite a bit.
I see you got the beards coming in there, sir.
Yeah, I went Riker on him, man.
I see you calling my beard.
Riker, man.
Riker. All right, we also have Mr. Brian Martin is with us as well. How you doing, Brian?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. This is the longest I've gone without a haircut, I think, in my life, and it's not visibly evident, but I feel it every minute of the day.
Okay, then.
I just thought we were talking about hair.
And we also have returning, revolving in and out as he is wont to do, Mr. Ninja Dave.
The holiday killer himself.
Killer himself. Ninja Dave.
That's a big secret. Spoilers, Jermon. And
sorry, Jermon.
I have been, during the quarantine, I have been cultivating my mash, for my moonshine mash in the backyard. So.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Take up some bootlegging.
A little light bootlegging is what he's got going on over there. Little did we know that Dave's been out killing people with a .22 caliber pistol while we've been recording.
Unsubstantiated rumors.
Well, it's good to have you back. It's good to have you back.
Glad to be back.
Well, we're going to pick up where we left off, man. We are doing the aforementioned April Fool's Day episode pertaining to the April Fool's issue of Batman Long Halloween. DC Comics, Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale. You know how the whole thing goes. I'm pretty sure there's probably other. I have no idea who the colorist is, but fuck them. Let's get into this. We are officially...
Isn't Tim Sale the colorist? No, Gregory Wright is the colorist.
I'm sorry, Greg. I know you listen quite often to Podbringer shows. I'm sorry.
Greg.
We're officially at the halfway mark of this bit of business with this episode. So let's get down with the summation of the April Fool's Day issue. Who is Holiday? At this point, the Holiday Killer has claimed a good handful of lives. Both the Riddler and Batman use a detective reasoning to try to solve the mystery. Under the surface of Carmine Falcone, the Riddler deduces that the Holiday uses their trademark .22 caliber pistol because it's cheap or because it's lightweight for a female assailant, like Catwoman. Is she the Holiday Killer? Of course, Batman zeroes in on suspects that have more obvious motives against Falcone. Rival crime boss Sal Maroni is an easy suspect, as is trying to unseat Falcone as Gotham's head crime boss. Could Maroni be the Holiday Killer? However, the Riddler deduces that there are people who have more personal motives. The first victim was Johnny Vitti, who was supposed to testify against Falcone and other crime families, including his own mother. Could it be Carla Vitti? She also has a not motive, but not what's like the opposite of an alibi? Like she's right there when Johnny gets clapped up. She's got whatever the opposite of an alibi is because she's also
one of the prime suspects.
One of the prime suspects. I guess we can say that. But Alfred. Yeah, there you go. It's person of interest. She's got opportunity. There we go. That's what I'm looking for.
Opportunities. There we are.
Yeah. Alfred injects to Batman the most disturbing suspect yet, Harvey motherfucking Dent. He's got the motive. He's got the means. He's got the time. Could Harvey be the killer? Dissatisfied with the Riddler's lack of answers, Falcone throws him out in the rain. The Riddler encounters a shadowy figure holding an umbrella and a .22 caliber pistol, but instead of killing the Riddler, Holiday spares him. After all, it is April Fool's in Gotham. So, Jermon,
yes,
we have started with the mob. We moved up a little bit to Solomon Grundy. We graduated to the Joker, then Poison Ivy, and now the Riddler. Are you liking how this whole thing has been unfolding so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, Loeb's later work, Hush, it's like Batman's greatest hits. You get to see basically, some of the best of his rogues gallery pop up, and it's always a good sight when you see the Riddler, because there's going to be some shenanigans.
Mr. Shenanigans.
Mr. Edward Shenanigans, I do believe is the...
Basically. I was going to go with the original. He was like, nah, try that Riddler thing.
Mr. Shenanigans. What's your gimmick going to be? General tomfoolery, I think.
We're going to need something more specialized than that.
Brian, didn't you say on the first episode that this is kind of how the whole thing unfolds, right? Things get more colorful the deeper we get into this whole bit of business.
Yeah, right. And I think I think it works really well here because you've got the greens juxtaposed with the darks of the Batcave. I really wanted to revisit this issue. I was very interested because when I read through the first time, this was one of my favorite chapters in the whole thing. Because I like the fact that the world's greatest detective is unwittingly matching wits simultaneously with Gotham's greatest trickster, right? And this guy who can game anything. And I really liked that juxtaposition. I wanted to see if the issue held up because I feel like this issue exists because at the time this series was coming out, month to month, the trade paperback market wasn't a huge thing. It wasn't like everything was getting collected. And I feel like this book picked up a lot of readers as it progressed, right? And some of those readers may have missed the first 2 or 3 issues of the book. And this kind of lets you pause, go over the evidence, and revisit all of those previous killings, right? And this is, okay, so just to pause for a second, this is where we're at. And I wasn't sure how it would hold up for me. It held up pretty well.
Yeah, this issue feels like you're coming off a commercial break. And if people are just now tuning in, it's like, all right, then let's take 2 minutes to get them up to speed on what's happening. Dave, have you been keeping up with this along since you've been in and out? Have you been reading issue to issue, or have you read all the way through to the end recently?
No, I've been keeping up issue to issue. I have not gone beyond. I've been maintaining my German experience.
Can I just say though that this is reading month to month is a real pain in the ass with this book. I am notoriously anti binge watching, but in this case, binge reading. All right, guys, I'm going to make a confession here. We are recording the April Fool's and the Mother's Day episodes back to back. I didn't realize that until we sat down to start recording this episode. And while Daryl was going over the synopsis for the April Fool's issue, I read in its entirety Mother's Day.
I'm calling complete bullshit on that, by the way.
You're saying you don't care for the Bat vignettes?
So let's get back to you real quick there, Mr. Jackson. Since you're the one of us who's the most pure going through all this.
Right.
Of the 4 put in the spotlight in this issue, 5, I'm sorry, Catwoman, Sal Maroni, Carl Leviti, just 4, and Harvey Dent. Which one are you finding most likely out of that group?
I don't think I'm still in the Harvey Dent camp.
So you're still very much, from the very pretty much beginning, you have been not Harvey Dent. It's funny because, the first few issues, it seemed to point to him. And, of course, obviously with the 22 and all that stuff, that's kind of Two-Face's signature. And, it seems like you're seeing, well, not necessarily seeing kind of like a slow descent of Harvey Dent into this Two-Face person. Like you see that, through from issue to issue, something might be a little off with him or whatever. Especially the thing that really got me was the Joker issue, the Christmas issue, where he shows up in his house and he's not even alarmed. He literally just socks him right in the face the second he sees him. Kick with the balls too.
This dude ain't quite right, man. I think there's really something going on here. And I think it was that first issue when the pile of money, and he had that one brief thought, or was like, and Batman's like, don't even think about it.
Oh, it wasn't brief. He was.
He was just like, but what if? Yeah.
Come on, guys. What do you think?
He definitely went home talking about that. Like he talked about it with Gilda that night. He's like, hey, so there was this room full of money, and just listen to me for a minute here and tell me what you think.
You always said this house was shitty. But Jermon, do you? We need to see your conspiracy wall. Do you need the yarn?
Strings and
all this tacked up, everything. Who do you think it is at this point? Who do you think it is?
I'm still, gosh, like it still seems to lean on Harvey. It seems too on the nose, but it still seems to lean on Harvey.
I think, all right, so coming at this from like the perspective of someone who consumes a lot of media, right? I get where Jermon's coming from, because this story, we have a solid 20 plus years looking back on this book now, and we know it's fondly remembered. We know this is considered one of the best Batman stories ever. If it just turns out to be Harvey, why is it so well remembered? Because it seems extraordinarily obvious that Harvey Dent would be the guy. Now, to this book's credit, I think it stands as a Two-Face origin story very, very well.
Yeah.
But from the murder mystery angle, if it ends up being Harvey, it's fairly anticlimactic, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty on the nose. If it ends up being Harvey, it's like, yeah, there's no, like, 'cause I guess in most like murder mysteries and things of that nature, I guess you're to the point now where you expect some kind of twist or something just off the wall, just out of nowhere, or
It would really just suggest that he was Two-Face way before the incident. Like, it's not the acid on the face that did it.
Right.
Yeah.
This is Two-Face year one.
Yeah.
They kind of leaned on that in the Dark Knight movie, where you saw Harvey Dent, like even before he got disfigured, you saw where he was he captured that one dude or whatever, dude from Ant-Man, and he was already going to flipping the coin and doing all that stuff then. Like, Batman should have been like, okay, this dude might be a little off here. It's like,
you have a gimmick too. I got a gimmick.
Brian, to your point, if it does end up being Two-Face at the end, I think this can still be remembered as one of the best Batman stories, because as the world's greatest detective, this is still the greatest book where he is a detective in it. It's still the most solid, laid down, just Batman using way less muscle and way more wits than anything else. That's why I think he's still considered.
Do you think Batman's emotions are getting involved? Because, the Riddler immediately goes to Catwoman. Batman never considers Catwoman.
I don't think so.
There's an emotional connection there. So I don't know if he's the world's greatest detective. I gotta be honest.
I don't really see him doing that much detective work in this one. I mean, he's amassed clues stolen from the GCPD, but yeah, I see him most of the time just standing around saying, I don't have a clue.
This is literally the first issue where I was like, it's about time he did some goddamn detective work.
See, Dave, to your point, I don't think he stole it from the GCPD. I think the GCPD never got their hands on that stuff in the first place. I think Bat stole, which is weird because reading it this time, it's juxtapositioning Batman against the Riddler, and they're both looking at the same objects. So either Batman stole from the Gotham City Police Department, or he got it before they got it. But either way, does that mean the Riddler went to Target and bought all the same things to have laid out on the table, as if that might help him with his case?
Right. I would argue that Batman or Alfred did the shopping, because Batman does point out that the objects were easily obtainable at any 5 and dime store.
True.
Yeah. Like he knew, I know where these guys are doing the shopping. And Gordon, of course, knows where they're doing the shopping, because he's bought some of the same things.
He went to Dollar Tree and got all this stuff.
Even down to the gun. They all have their own version of the gun as well.
Also bought at the Dollar Tree.
Well, the guns, there have been guns left at every single scene.
Yes.
So theoretically, there should only be one snow globe and one pumpkin and so on and so forth. But there have been, 7 guns at this point?
Yes, there have been 7 guns at this point. Also,
as of April Fool's Day?
As of April Fool's Day, yes, 7 guns. Someone's either buying guns in bulk, or they're buying the same gun over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I will take a minute to point out, because I since I sometimes have to be at work at 3:00 in the morning and things are slow, I read this on Comixology. And when I read things on Comixology, I use the guided view because I think the guided view is pretty fucking dope. This is not the issue to read this on guided view.
No.
It's not. I think in order to completely appreciate this issue, you have to see the whole page as it's laid out to see him going back and forth between.
Because you often see the layouts are set up so the Riddler scenes counterbalance the Batman scenes.
Right.
So the eyes are drawn diagonally across the page from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
So it's really, really crucial that you see this thing in all its full page glory.
Agreed. And speaking of which, man, what are some of you guys' Dave? What's some of your favorite panels coming out of this?
These guys is. I'm just going to say it. Any panel that has the ever shifting proportions of Sophia.
Oh God.
I'm also wildly attracted to her as well. I like a large proportional woman, and there's something about her. I mean, she just she gets in there, and they break her out, and they're like, "Hey, we got a job for you, So pretty much. Go ahead.
I previously mentioned that Gina Carano should play
Sophia Gigante.
In the movie. I now want to say John Cena should in the feature film version.
That'd be weird because then we couldn't see her.
She is a husky lass.
What about you, German? What are some of your go-to panels in this issue?
The last one, definitely. That big splash page is after you see, because, it goes in black and white again because, the holiday killer's coming for Riddler. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. They can't snuff him out. And, like now, this is early in Batman's career or whatever. But then you see that last page where, oh, yeah, April Fools. I get it.
Yeah.
Seeing that whole spread of him just, terrified with all the bullet holes around him like a Looney Tunes cartoon or whatever.
How does this gun hold about 78 shots?
Right.
Yeah.
That's just nuts.
It's
I had to ask that question before, I
Did
think.
he wait for them to reload?
Yeah.
Stay right there. Stay right there. What about you, Brian?
It's not really a single page, but, we've talked previously about how the murder scenes suddenly cut to this black and white kind of sepia toned sort of page, and all these speculatory scenes where they think back to the crimes and different possible perpetrators go back to the same motif, but they use splash color for all of the holiday items, and there's been splash color in the past too, but I just think the just sort of use throughout in rapid succession is really, really effective in this issue. I really, really love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can get down with it as well.
The hallmark of a good whodunit.
The hallmark of a good I think the one that stands out the most in that is Johnny Vitti when you see that bloody red hand coming out of the bathtub. That's red is always the best splash color, especially when you got so much black and white happening. Yeah, they really paint the frame with that one. For me, I think it's going to be Batman, where Alfred's like, you've talked about a lot of people, you haven't really touched on Harvey, and then you just see him standing with the gun like, Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it just immediately cuts in the next to Harvey saying, Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. So they're slowly circling around each other. And also the very first page of this, the Riddler says who is, and then Batman says holiday. And for some reason, whatever computer screen Batman is looking at on that first page is just a screen full of numbers. Which, what is that telling him?
Matrix.
He's looking at the Matrix. What is the Matrix? Who is the killer? We will not find out in either one of these issues. Is there anything else that stands out to you guys throughout this issue? After David's pointing out his love for Miss Gigante, what else is in there?
I do. I generally love Loeb and Sale's handling of all of the principal, the major Batman villains as they roll out in this series. The Riddler was the one that never quite sat well with me, and it has less to do with this issue and more to do with his appearance in later issues, I think, where he's just sort of this lush who's just kind of foppish.
Yeah, and he's not very effective either. It's more like it's not
Right.
He doesn't get a chance to show off his intellectual prowess. And
Yeah.
he just kind of comes off as a goof.
He's a little goofy, a little dopey.
Yeah.
And that scene, though, at the end where he's getting his head literally crushed by Sophia, that's hard to look at.
Yeah.
But I think he's coming off as you said, like ineffectual and as foppish as he is in this issue, because no one knows who the fuck this guy is. It's such random killings that you can't target a pattern, you can't target a motive. You have to have at least a base kernel of something as fact to, build everything else off of. And the facts are just so wonky and all over the place. And even the world's greatest detective and, the quote unquote greatest mind in Gotham as the Riddler have no base of establishment to figure out what's going on here. So I think he comes off as clueless on purpose just because no one knows what the fuck's going on.
Well, one person does. Calendar Man.
Okay, yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Old Julian Day also has no idea what's going on. I guess the killer knows what's going on. But other than that, yeah, no one has any clues. German, you got any other thoughts on this issue, man?
I actually loved the part where, this, after going through all the suspects and what have you, I actually love that part where, the Riddler he basically doesn't have a clue either. And Carmine Falcone is basically fuck out of here. You're a crackpot. What are you? What I bring you in for?
I paid good money for you.
Yeah.
This fool said Holiday was Carmine Falcone to Carmine Falcone's face.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only thing that saved him, because Falcone thought it was funny. If he said any other name, I think Riddler would have been dead that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, any other name.
I liked in the Sophia come right back comment, don't kill this guy. Just come back.
Do you think that's the meaning behind that come right back?
Yeah, it's a very mobbish kind of code speak.
Yeah.
It'd be like, take him out back and take all the time you need. That's
Make it quick. It quick.
Right.
You know what? I never really interpreted it like that, but that does make sense.
You thought she was supposed to finish him off?
No, I just thought it meant come right back so we can discuss this shit further.
Well, I always read it because her response, she says, take Mr. Enigma to the exit. She says, yes, Papa. And then Aunt Sophia, come right back. And she says, yes, Papa. Like that yes is emphasized. It's like she wants to fucking kill everybody.
Right.
Sophia, stop with the killing for one night. Oi.
Yeah, and she smashes the Riddler's hat on top of his head, kind of I wish I could. I was gonna fucking kill you, but my hands are tied tonight.
My hands are tied tonight.
Got a beefaroni in the microwave. I gotta get.
All right on, man. Does anybody got anything else they want to cover in this issue? This issue was I think, the good palate cleansing. All right, we should all be on the same page from here on out. Now let's get to the back half of this whole story.
So for as haphazard as it seems and as inconclusive as it seems, I think this issue once again does drop a couple legitimate clues as to the identity of Holiday. There are a couple questions raised that are just very legitimate questions that are not necessarily answered particularly well by the people asking them.
Imagine you can't elucidate on this because German does not know the future.
Yeah, I don't want to, but there are definitely clues in this issue. And that's something I didn't really remember about it, because one of my concerns with this book on the reread process has been, I don't think that the reader, and German will probably agree, has been given enough information to even formulate an opinion about this.
Nope.
Not necessarily, no.
But there are at this point a few distinct clues that have appeared in the book so far to kind of point you in the direction. And I think the next issue is where the turn really starts happening.
I might disagree with that, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
The one thing that I wanted to bring up, I think they kind of pulled Harvey back a little bit in this issue. Like it seemed like especially the Valentine's Day issue, he's really chomping at the bit to get at Bruce Wayne. Whereas in this one, Gordon's like, "You sure you want to go through with this?" And Harvey's like, "Arresting one of Gotham's most prominent citizens? No." So it's not like he's like, we gotta go get this guy. We gotta go get this guy. Even Harvey, I think, knows that if we go arrest this guy or even detain him for questioning, we might upset the balance of economics in Gotham City. So he's not as eager beaver as he was in the Valentine's Day episode.
And it's one of those cases where it's so high profile that if they're wrong about it, it's going to completely discredit them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Very good point. Very good point.
I think it was also good from a writing standpoint because, a lot of the fingers have been pointing towards Harvey Dent. And so to kind of put him on the back burner doesn't give him overexposure in the issue either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
I will make this point as well. If this book were being read or actually being published in our current society, our current climate with all social media, I don't think it would be able to make it to the end without fans breaking apart all the different details, clues, and trying to predict after each issue what's going on. So
sure.
Yeah, there'd have been a YouTube series on it.
Yeah, but I also think that
Yep.
every single person who was a suspect would have been addressed by someone on social media and dissected and justified the same way that the Riddler and Batman are doing here. So I don't even know that even after that, it would be very obvious who the responsible party is. I think it's hard to say at this point in the series who Holiday is, but the fishy things, there are certain fishy things that have happened that are clearly fishy, that have caught the attention of the players and probably the readers at this point.
Right.
It's just a matter of figuring out how it all fits together.
Right. Go ahead.
I would love if this book had come out during this time frame, because I would have loved to have been part of that discourse of people trying to break shit down. It's like Lost when Lost first came to air. No one knew what the fuck was going on, and everybody was on all the message boards, whatever the case may be. But on the other side of that coin, see what I did there, is once you got to the end, everybody who had their heart set on it's this person, they would have all been just, this series is shit because it wasn't who I thought it was going to be.
Well, I will say this. I have had the pleasure of experiencing that type of scenario with some of the series that I've read, and I've actually they've interviewed some of the writers at kind of during and after their story arcs and what have you, and the writers say, on Twitter, my followers, they picked apart this and they actually figured out who this person was. So I intentionally changed what I was going to present in this next issue to kind of throw them off.
Okay.
So it's kind of almost a symbiotic relationship in that respect when you're trying to put a long running mystery out, because people, like you said, people have the YouTube series, people have just the chat rooms where they just kind of go over every bit of minutia and try to figure things out. And so it either causes the writers, the creators, to be more creative or to take some risks that they wouldn't originally plan for.
And see, that can be unfortunate at times too, because just like with what was it, Armageddon 2001 back in the day, where people figured out who the Monarch was early on, and it forced quote unquote forced DC to change the identity of Monarch, and it made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I think once the breadcrumbs are laid down and you have your path, you have absolutely no choice but to stick to that path. And if they figure out what's going on, you just got to give them as entertaining a ride as possible. And I think what Dave said of, if they figure out what's happening, try to throw them some clues and throw them off the trail or whatever. But once your end game is set, especially with something like
if you already have the killer, don't change who the killer is. Just change. You got to look on the clues,
If you have a murder mystery, you have to begin knowing who the killer is, and you cannot alter that path.
Right.
And that's the beauty of this story, though, is that I think one of the reasons it's fondly remembered is that the identity of the killer isn't really what makes this story work. In fact, some would argue that the identity of the killer is what works against this story the most.
I would say that.
What makes this story a timeless Batman story is the Two-Face arc. Like, this is the best Two-Face origin story we're likely to ever get. And it's always going to be that. No matter who does or does not know who the killer is or how well it executes its murder mystery plot, it's still, you get to the end and you're like, well, here's Two-Face.
Yeah, you're right.
And you get some great who's who while you're at it.
Mm-hmm.
If you've never read any Batman before, you get introduced to kind of the creme de la creme of his rogues gallery and get to see them, with the exception of the Riddlers, you get to see them at their best.
Yeah, I think the Two-Face is my favorite Batman villain, and this is my favorite Batman story. So I'm not sure if those two things are intertwined, if I love Two-Face because I love the story, or I love the story because I love Two-Face. But yeah, Brian, I think you're right. And at the end of the day, this is just a dope-ass origin story for Two-Face. Yeah, I think that about wraps up the Batman part of it, man. Look, so this is supposedly the April Fool's Day episode. So I was like, let me hop on the internet and see if I can find like some of the world's best April Fool's Day pranks to talk about.
Oh boy.
Boy, are they some shit pranks out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I looked up like so many websites, like these are the top greatest pranks and hoaxes in the history of the world. And they all sound like now comparatively in 2020, such junior high bullshit that wasn't even worth bringing up and mentioning. Like the best one I could find was like back in the days, like some cats lived near a volcano and this dude just bought like 1,000 pounds of old tires and threw them in the volcano and set them on fire. So they saw the smoke coming out and they thought the volcano was going to erupt and they all fucking panicked. And that was April Fool's Day. I'm like, you just burned 1,000 pounds of rubber is all you did.
Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty good though. That's pretty good. Like if you live near a volcano, you're like, well, limited reach.
The maximum impact to those reached. Do you guys have any good April Fool's Day gags that you have performed or have been performed to you?
Oh yes. I was thinking because I was just thinking about that.
Sherman hopped all over this question.
Yes, there's literally one and only one I can think of. My old roommate back in the day, he comes home April Fool's Day, and he's like, "Hey, did you see this on the door or whatever? He hands me this note. It was an eviction notice, and I'm looking at it and reading it, and they were talking about some disturbances and blah 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 and this and that, and I am like fuming, like getting evicted. What the hell? What the hell is going on? Who the hell did turn us in about some noise disturbances and shit like that? And I'm literally to the point where I was like about to walk down to the rental office and go off in there. My buddy had to stop. He's like, dude, it was April Fool's.
German almost got them kicked out for real.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen German angry. So that was being a thing to see.
I would pay good money for that. I pay great money for that.
What about you, Daryl? Any great April Fool's Days?
No, man. It's never been my thing. It's never really been it wasn't my gag when I was a kid. It's not my gag now. I think in order for any April Fool's gag, because nowadays everyone just wakes up knowing what day it is and expecting it, right? And then your boss might do some goofy shit at the office and everybody goes, and then you get back to work. And that's your April Fool's. I think in order to, like, no gags hold weight now. Like, you have to, in properly fool someone, you got to lay the groundwork down for weeks in advance. And it all culminates on this day. And that's the only way it works.
It's like deer hunting. You have to watch the person. You have to stalk them for months and come up with the perfect avenue.
You do have to know your marks. For me, it was and my office is a very my office likes to eat. We get a lot of snacks and foods provided by vendors. They bring stuff in and say, "Hey, do business with us," and we brought you some Chick-fil-A or that kind of stuff, you know. And so it was not uncommon for us to get Krispy Kreme donuts. And so someone had the bright idea to bring a Krispy Kreme, like a big 12-pack thing there. But when you flip open the lid, it was an assorted vegetable plate.
Oh,
Kill him on the spot.
Smack that box right off the table.
Oh, my God.
Bullshit.
Telling you.
It's
Great.
exactly-
It was perfect. It was perfect.
What about you, Brian? You got anything, Brian?
I mean, my wife at one point pulled the "I'm pregnant" thing with me. And sure, I mean everybody does that once, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't an April Fool's Day joke. But the best prank I ever pulled off was when I asked her to marry me, and the process here was that she knew I had gotten the ring. I got the ring on like Black Friday. She was there. She knew exactly what ring she wanted. So if you knew my wife or you know my wife, you know that when she tells you she wants this one thing, nothing other than that one thing will do. So she had to show me what it was. So she knew I had the ring, and I'm like, well, now I have to sit on it. I have to make her think this is never going to happen, even though I've got the ring.
Yeah.
So
Play
I
the
waited.
incompetence card.
I waited months and months. Like I said, the ring was on Black Friday, and it wasn't until May that we got engaged. And the day that we got engaged, she went to go work out at the gym, and I had this whole set of puzzles arranged that were meant to be trials for her to go through. The first of which was actually completing a jigsaw puzzle that had a message written on it in blacklight marker. So she had to shine a blacklight over it to even read the location of the next clue, which was incidentally in the gym that she had worked out at that morning. And then she uncovered that, and that led her to Godiva Chocolatier, and she had to go in and say a specific phrase to them to be able to get the next clue, and so on and so forth until finally. And by the way, the whole time this is happening, I got all my shit in order, and I went to the theater and watched Thor. And so she's out there just slaving away at all this stuff, and I'm completely incommunicado watching Thor. And we meet up that night for dinner, and the final test was that, we're having this really nice dinner together, and she thinks I'm going to propose to her, but I don't, right? And dinner comes and dinner goes, and there's no proposal. And I was like, my initial plan was to that was the joke, and I was going to ask her to marry me 2 days later. She was so furious at everything she had gone through during that day, only to get to dinner where she's told her sister, she told people, I'm pretty sure Brian's going to propose to me at dinner, blah, blah, and I didn't. I had to propose that night because I was like, she's going to leave if I don't do it right now. So it was a prank that was kind of too good.
Oh, man. Wonderful.
You dirty cock tease.
That night.
Well done. Well
Oh
done.
my God.
That was better laid out than all of phase one.
Let me tell you kids a story about how I almost didn't meet your mother.
I feel like it's one of those holidays that's cool. It's like Christmas. It's cool when you're a kid, but the older you get, you just don't give a fuck anymore about it.
Yeah.
And with that happy note,
Getting old.
getting old. You guys want to say anything else about that April Fool's Day before we wrap this up?
I thought it was interesting that they chose that for the issue instead of Easter.
That's a good point.
Easter's a migratory holiday. Sometimes it's in March and sometimes it's in April. So I don't think they could.
Oh.
I don't think it could pull it off, right?
Well, you have you egg someone's house or hide clues in candy eggs.
I really wish Alfred had played a prank, though. Alfred was the guy who was poised to play a prank. Maybe the tea that he brings Bruce is actually, I don't know, hot sauce.
Some laxative.
Joker's out there murdering by the dozens, and Batman can't get out there because he keeps shitting his pants. Thanks to Alfred.
Old chum.
I honestly think Batman would just shit himself and deal with it.
You know, you're probably right.
He would. He'd have a bat diaper.
I bat depend on depends.
It would only further his drive for vengeance.
Adds Alfred to the list of people he needs to get vengeance against. All right, well, that's going to do it for our April Fool's Day episode. A little bit late. We apologize for that. Fuck, we still got it out in April. We'll be back in a couple of weeks for the Mother's Day issue. Until then, you guys take it easy and have a good one.